My name is Brielle Hart, and I'm sitting at a family dinner in Stamford, Connecticut, watching my mother laugh at my dream like it's the funniest thing she's heard all year. The dinner table is set the way it always is. White linen, expensive wine glasses, plates arranged just so. My parents like things to look perfect, especially when we have company. Tonight, it's just family, but the performance never stops. My father, Gerald, sits at the head of the table in a pressed shirt. My mother, Patricia, is beside him, perfectly styled as always. And my brother, Ethan, 27 years old, and fresh off a promotion at his finance job in Manhattan, sits across from me looking like he's already won something. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell them. I rehearsed it in my car on the way over. I told myself it would be fine. They'd listen. They'd understand. Maybe they'd even be proud. I was wrong. So I've been working on something, I say, setting down my fork. It's a software platform for restaurants. An inventory and ordering app that helps small businesses track stock, reduce waste, and automate supplier orders. I've been building it for 6 months, and I think it's ready to launch. My mother blinks. An app? Yes. It's designed specifically for independent restaurants and food trucks. The subscription model is simple, and the margins are... She laughs. Not a polite chuckle. A full, bright laugh that cuts through the room like glass. Brielle, honey, that's sweet, she says, reaching for her wine. But you have a real job. Why would you waste your time on something like that? It's not a waste of time, I say. I've done the research. The market is flooded with apps, my father interrupts. His voice is calm, measured, the way it always is when he's about to dismiss me. Every college kid with a laptop thinks they can build the next big thing. You're better than that. I feel something tighten in my chest. Dad, I'm not a college kid. I'm 30 years old. I have a degree in operations management and 5 years of experience in logistics. I know what I'm doing. Ethan leans back in his chair, smirking. Come on, Brie. How many restaurant apps are already out there? Toast, Square, Chow Now. You really think you can compete with those guys? I'm not trying to compete with them, I say. I'm solving a different problem. Inventory waste is costing independent restaurants thousands of dollars a month. My platform helps them track it in real time and generates automatic orders based on usage patterns. It's niche, it's scalable, and it's a hobby, my mother says. She says it gently, like she's doing me a favor. And that's fine, sweetheart, but you need to be realistic. You have a stable job, you have benefits. Why would you throw that away to chase something that probably won't work? The word probably sits heavy in the air. I look at my father. He's not saying anything, but he's nodding along with everything my mother says. I look at Ethan. He's still smirking like this is the most entertaining thing that's happened all week. They laughed. I say quietly, not to them, to you. Because 6 months later, my father would call me sounding scared because the dashboard on my laptop hit a number he couldn't ignore. Quick roll call. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and state. And if you love family revenge stories where the underdog actually wins, hit like and subscribe, because what my parents did after they laughed at me is going to make you mad. I didn't argue with them that night. I didn't defend myself or plead my case. I just nodded, finished my dinner, and left. On the drive home, I made a decision. I wasn't going to ask them for help. I wasn't going to ask for their approval. I wasn't going to tell them anything about the business again until it was too successful to ignore. And I kept that promise. Building a startup while working full-time is like trying to run 2 marathons at once. My day job as a project manager at a logistics company in Stamford paid the bills, barely. After rent, utilities, student loans, and groceries, I had maybe $300 left over each month. That was supposed to be my safety net. Instead, I spent it on my app. I paid for hosting. I paid for a freelance developer to fix bugs I couldn't solve on my own. I paid for a designer to clean up the interface so it didn't look like something I'd built in my garage. Because I had built it in my garage. Or more accurately, at my kitchen table in a studio apartment that smelled like the Indian restaurant downstairs. Every dollar I spent felt like a risk. Every hour I spent coding after work felt like borrowed time. And every conversation with my family reminded me that if I failed, I'd never hear the end of it. 2 weeks after the dinner, my mother called. "Brielle, I've been thinking," she said. Her voice had that soft, concerned tone that meant she was about to give me advice I didn't ask for. "Have you thought about coming to work with your father? He's been talking about expanding the consulting side of the business, and you'd be perfect for it." "I have a job, Mom." "I know, but this would be family. Real stability. And honestly, sweetheart, I worry about you. You're 30 years old. You're single. You're living in that tiny apartment. Don't you want more than that?" I wanted to tell her that I was building more, that I was creating something that could change my life. But I knew she wouldn't understand. "I'm fine, Mom." "Well, if you change your mind, the offer's there," she paused. "Your brother's doing so well. He just closed another deal. Your father and I are so proud of him." There it was, the comparison, the reminder that Ethan was the golden child and I was the one who needed fixing. "That's great," I said. "I have to go." I hung up before she could say anything else. The truth was, I wasn't just risking money. I was risking everything. If the app failed, I'd be broke. If I quit my job to focus on it full time and it didn't work, I'd be unemployed and broke. And if my parents found out I was still working on it after they told me to stop, they'd never let me forget it. But the biggest risk wasn't financial. It was emotional. Because every time my mother dismissed me, every time my father nodded along with her, every time Ethan smirked like I was the family joke, a small part of me started to believe them. Maybe I was wasting my time. Maybe I was being naive. Maybe I should just take the safe job, settle down, and stop trying to prove I was worth something. But then I'd open my laptop and see the code I'd written. I'd read the feedback from the first restaurant owner who'd agreed to test it. I'd look at the spreadsheet where I'd mapped out the subscription model, the growth projections, the potential. And I'd remember why I started. I wasn't building this app to prove anything to my parents. I was building it because I saw a problem and I knew I could solve it. I was building it because I was tired of waiting for permission to be successful. I was tired of living like I needed someone else's approval to take up space in the world. So I kept going. I worked late nights and early mornings. I skipped dinners with friends. I stopped buying coffee out and started making it at home. I wore the same work clothes until the seams started to fray because I couldn't afford to replace them. And slowly, quietly, I started to see results. One restaurant owner turned into two. Two turned into five. Five turned into a referral network that I hadn't even planned for. The app was working. The revenue was small, but it was real. And I didn't tell my family a single thing about it. The first real yes came from a food truck owner named Marco. I met him at a farmer's market in Stamford on a Saturday morning. I wasn't there to pitch my app. I was there to buy coffee and watch how small food businesses actually operated. I'd been doing that for months, studying the chaos, the handwritten inventory lists, the frantic calls to suppliers when they ran out of something mid-shift. Marco's truck was called Street Eats, and he sold tacos, empanadas, and rice bowls. The line was 20 people deep, and he was sweating through his shirt trying to keep up. When the rush finally died down, I walked over. "Busy day," I said. He wiped his forehead with a towel. "Every weekend. It's good for business, bad for my sanity." I handed him my card. "I built something that might help. It's an inventory app. tracks what you're using in real time, and auto-generates orders so you don't run out of ingredients or overorder and waste money. He looked at the card, then at me. How much? $99 a month, first month free. He laughed. Lady, I'm barely breaking even as it is. That's why I built it, I said. You're probably losing more than $99 a month in waste alone. Let me prove it. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he shrugged. Fine. 1 month. If it doesn't work, I'm out. Deal. I set him up that afternoon. Showed him how to log inventory, how to set reorder thresholds, how to read the waste reports. By the end of the first week, he'd saved $300 by not over-ordering avocados and cilantro. By the end of the month, he paid for his first subscription. And then he told his friend who owned a small Italian restaurant in Norwalk. That owner told another owner. Within 6 weeks, I had 8 paying customers. I didn't tell my parents. I knew exactly what they'd say. 8 customers isn't a business, Brielle. It's a side hustle. But I did tell Ethan. That was my first mistake. We met for coffee in Greenwich one Sunday afternoon. He asked how I was doing, and for some reason, I thought he actually cared. I'm good, I said. The app is gaining traction. I have 8 customers now, and they're all seeing real results. He nodded, stirring his latte. That's cool. But 8 customers? That's not really scalable, is it? It's a start. Sure, but apps are a dime a dozen, Brie. You know that, right? There are 1,000 restaurant platforms out there. What makes yours different? I explained the niche. The focus on independent operators. The waste reduction angle. He listened, but I could see it in his eyes. He didn't believe me. Look, I'm not trying to be negative, he said. I just don't want you to waste your time on something that's probably not going to work. You're smart. You could do something real. Something real. As if what I was building wasn't. I went home that night and opened my laptop. I pulled up the dashboard and stared at the numbers. 8 customers. $792 in monthly recurring revenue. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And then my phone buzzed. A text from Marco. Hey, I told my buddy about your app. He wants a demo. His name is Luis. He owns 3 spots in Bridgeport. Call him. I stared at the message for a long time. 3 spots. That meant 3 subscriptions. That meant more referrals. That meant momentum. I called Luis the next morning. Be honest, if your own parents laughed at your dream, would you keep building in silence? Or cut them off until you had proof? Comment A, build quietly, or B, confront them now. Luis signed on, and his 3 restaurants became my proof of concept. For the first time, I had a multi-location client. For the first time, I could see the app scaling in a way that felt real. And then everything almost fell apart. It started with a bug, a small one. Or at least, it seemed small at first. One of Luis's managers called me at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night. Your app isn't syncing. I just logged a full inventory count, and it's not showing up in the system. I was already in bed. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up the back end. He was right. The sync was broken, and not just for him, for everyone. I spent the next 4 hours trying to fix it. I tried every solution I could think of. I rolled back updates. I checked the server logs. I tested the API connections. Nothing worked. By 3 a.m, I was panicking. I had 12 customers now, and all of them were locked out of their inventory data. If I couldn't fix this by the morning, they'd all cancel. And they'd tell other people. And my reputation would be destroyed before it even started. I called the freelance developer I'd been working with. He didn't answer. I texted him. No response. So I did the only thing I could do. I taught myself how to fix it. I spent the rest of the night reading documentation, watching tutorials, and testing code. By 6 a.m, I'd found the problem. A server migration had corrupted one of the database connections. I fixed it, resynced the data, and sent an email to all my customers apologizing for the outage. Luis called me an hour later. "We're back online. Thanks for fixing it." "I'm sorry it happened in the first place." "It's fine. Stuff breaks. You fixed it. That's what matters." But it wasn't fine, because the next day, my mother called. "Ethan told me you're still working on that app," she said. Her voice was tight. "Brielle, we talked about this. You need to focus on your real job. You're gonna burn yourself out chasing something that isn't going anywhere." "It is going somewhere, Mom. I have 12 customers. I'm making real revenue." 12 customers, she repeated. "Brielle, that's not a business. That's a hobby. And now you're staying up all night fixing problems instead of sleeping. This isn't healthy." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her that I'd spent 4 hours saving something I'd built from scratch. That I'd solved a problem most people wouldn't even know how to diagnose. That I was building something that mattered. But I didn't, because I knew she wouldn't hear me. "I have to go," I said. "Brielle." I hung up. That afternoon, I got a notification. 3 new customer signups. Marco had introduced me to a restaurant owners group in Fairfield County, and they'd all decided to try the app. 15 customers. $1,485 in monthly recurring revenue. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Ethan. I just kept building. Because here's what they didn't understand. Every setback made me stronger. Every late night made me sharper. Every time they told me to quit, I found another reason to keep going. And I was just getting started. By month 6, I had 32 customers and $4,200 in monthly recurring revenue. I kept a spreadsheet of everything. Every customer, every payment, every churn, every refund request, every testimonial. I tracked the good and the ugly, because I knew if I ever had to defend this business, I'd need proof. And I took screenshots of everything my family said. The text from my mother in March. "Brielle, your father and I are worried. You're not taking care of yourself. Please reconsider this app thing." The voicemail from Ethan in April. "Hey, just checking in. I heard you're still doing the restaurant thing." "I don't know, Brie. I think you should cut your losses before you waste more time." The email from my father in May. "Your mother mentioned you're spending money on this project. If you need financial help, we can discuss it. But we'd prefer you focus on a stable path." I saved them all. Not because I wanted to be petty, but because I knew the day would come when they'd try to rewrite history. When they'd claim they'd supported me all along. By July, I had 53 customers and $7,900 in MRR. I was barely sleeping. My day job was suffering. I was exhausted, broke, and running on fumes. But the numbers didn't lie. The app was working. And then my family started asking questions. It started at a barbecue at my parents' house. I'd been avoiding family gatherings, but my mother guilted me into coming. Ethan was there with his girlfriend, a lawyer he'd met at some corporate networking event. They were talking about their vacation to Italy. My parents were bragging about Ethan's latest bonus. And then my father turned to me. "So, Brielle, how's work?" "It's fine," I said. "Just fine?" My mother looked concerned. "Are you still doing that app thing?" I hesitated. I didn't want to tell them. But something in me snapped. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was pride. Maybe I just wanted them to stop treating me like I was failing. "Yeah, I'm still doing it, and it's going well. I have over 50 customers now." My mother blinked. 50? 53, I said. "Small restaurants, food trucks, a few caterers. They're all paying a monthly subscription. I'm making about $8,000 a month in revenue." The table went quiet. My father set down his beer. $8,000 a month? From an app?" "Yes." Ethan leaned forward. "Wait, you're making $8,000 a month? After expenses?" "Before expenses," I clarified. "After hosting, Development costs and support, I'm netting about $5,000. $5,000 a month wasn't life-changing money, but it was real money. It was proof that I wasn't wasting my time. My mother's expression shifted, not to pride, to confusion, like she couldn't reconcile the daughter she'd dismissed with the numbers I'd just given her. That's impressive, my father said slowly. How long have you been doing this? 6 months. Ethan was staring at me like I'd just spoken a different language. And you didn't tell us? You told me it was a waste of time, I said, so I stopped talking about it. My mother reached for her wine glass. Well, that's wonderful, Brielle, really. But this is still very early. You should be careful. These things can fall apart quickly. There it was, the caveat, the hedge. The refusal to just be happy for me. I didn't argue. I just nodded and changed the subject. But that night, lying in bed, I realized something. They didn't want me to succeed. Not really. They wanted me to stay small, manageable, easy to explain. And I wasn't going to let them shrink me anymore. 2 weeks after the barbecue, my mother called. Her tone was different. Warmer, almost excited. Brielle, honey, I've been thinking. If your app is doing as well as you said, maybe it's time to make it official. Get some real structure around it. What do you mean? Well, your father and I were talking. If this is going to be a real business, you should bring Ethan in. He has experience with finance, operations, all the things you'll need as you scale. I sat down. Mom, I don't need Ethan. I'm handling it. I know you think that, sweetheart, but running a business isn't just about building an app. You need someone who understands the corporate side. Ethan could help you set up an LLC, manage the books, maybe even bring in investors. I don't want investors. Not now, but eventually you will. And Ethan has connections. He could open doors for you. I closed my eyes. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. The moment they stopped laughing and started trying to control. Mom, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not bringing Ethan into my business. There was a pause. Brielle, don't be stubborn. This is a family opportunity. We could all benefit. We? I repeated. Or you. That's not fair. Isn't it? I stood up, pacing my apartment. For 6 months, you told me to quit. You told me I was wasting my time. You told me to get a real job. And now that it's working, you want in? We're trying to help you. No, you're trying to control me. There's a difference. She was quiet for a moment. Then her voice hardened. Brielle, if you're going to be difficult about this, fine. But don't come crying to us when it all falls apart. She hung up. If you've ever had people mock you, then act like they believed in you once you started winning. Subscribe to support Brielle, because this is the part where she stops being the joke and starts being the one in control. 2 days later, Ethan texted me. Mom told me you shut her down. What's going on? I didn't respond. He called. I didn't answer. Finally, he showed up at my apartment, unannounced on a Saturday morning. I opened the door in sweatpants and a coffee-stained t-shirt. We need to talk, he said. About what? About the fact that you're being weird. Mom's just trying to help. She's trying to help herself, I said, and so are you. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means for 6 months, you told me this was a waste of time. You called it a hobby. You said apps were a dime a dozen. And now that I'm making real money, you want a piece of it. That's not what this is about. Yes, it is. I stepped back. You didn't believe in me. You didn't support me. You didn't even ask how it was going until I told you I was making money. So no, Ethan, you don't get to be part of this now. His face flushed. You're being selfish. I'm being smart, I said, and I'm done letting you and Mom and Dad treat me like I'm the family disappointment. I closed the door. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. By month 11, I hit a milestone I'd been chasing since the beginning. $1 million in revenue. Not profit, revenue. It was the number that venture capitalists looked at. The number that proved a business was real. The number that meant I wasn't just lucky. I was building something that worked. I stared at the dashboard on my laptop for a long time. $1,004,200. 12 months of grinding. 12 months of late nights, skipped meals, and saying no to everything that wasn't this business. And I'd done it without them. My parents were hosting Thanksgiving that year. I hadn't planned on going, but my mother called and guilted me into it. It's a family holiday, Brielle. You can't miss it. I almost said no, but something made me say yes. Maybe I wanted them to see me, maybe I wanted them to know. Or maybe I just wanted to watch them realize they'd been wrong. The house was full when I arrived. My parents, Ethan and his girlfriend, a few cousins, my aunt and uncle. Everyone was dressed up, laughing, drinking wine in the living room. My mother greeted me at the door. Brielle, you're here? We were just talking about you. Were you? Yes, your father was telling everyone about your little app, she smiled. It's so nice that you found something you enjoy. Something I enjoy. Like it was a craft project. I set down my bag and walked into the living room. Ethan was standing by the fireplace, telling a story about some client deal he'd closed. My father was nodding along, proud as always. Brielle. My Aunt Linda waved me over. I heard you're doing something with technology. That's so impressive. It's a software platform for restaurants, I said. Inventory management. Oh, how interesting. She looked at my mother. Patricia, you must be so proud. My mother smiled tightly. We are, of course, though we've been encouraging her to think bigger. Bring in some help, make it more sustainable. There it was, the caveat, the subtle dig. I took a breath. Actually, I hit a milestone this month. The room quieted slightly. I crossed $1 million in revenue. Silence. Complete silence. My father set down his drink. 1 million? Yes. 12 months. 138 customers. Recurring subscriptions. I'm projecting 1.4 million by the end of next year. My mother's face went pale. Ethan stared at me like I'd just told him I'd won the lottery. That's incredible, my aunt said. Brielle, that's a real business. It is, I said. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd been keeping. And just so everyone knows, I built it completely on my own. No family help, no support. In fact, I have some texts here that might be interesting. I read the first one aloud. This is from Mom, 7 months ago. Brielle, your father and I are worried. Please reconsider this app thing. My mother's face flushed. Brielle. I kept going. Here's one from Ethan. I don't know, Brie. I think you should cut your losses before you waste more time. Ethan's jaw tightened. And here's my favorite. An email from Dad. If you need financial help, we can discuss it, but we'd prefer you focus on a stable path. My father looked at the floor. I'm not sharing this to embarrass anyone, I said. I'm sharing it so everyone understands what actually happened. You didn't support me. You laughed at me. You told me to quit. And when I didn't, you tried to take control of something you had nothing to do with building. My mother stood up. Brielle, this isn't fair. We were trying to protect you. No, I said. You were trying to protect yourselves. You didn't want to explain to your friends that your daughter was wasting her time on some app. You wanted me to do what Ethan did. Stay safe. Stay small. Stay manageable. The room was silent. My cousins looked uncomfortable. My aunt looked stunned. Ethan finally spoke. So what, you're just going to hold this over us forever? No, I said. I'm going to keep building, with or without you. My mother's voice was shaking. If you walk out of here, Brielle, you're choosing your business over your family. I looked at her. No, Mom, I'm choosing myself. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. No one stopped me. I didn't hear from my parents for 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. No calls, no texts, nothing. Ethan tried once. He sent a message that said, "You embarrassed Mom in front of everyone. Was that really necessary?" I didn't respond. The truth was, I didn't need them to understand. I didn't need their approval. And I didn't need their apology. What I needed was to keep building. By December, I had 150 customers. I hired my first employee, a customer support specialist who could handle the emails and calls that were eating up my time. I raised my prices. I built out a premium tier. I started working with a small restaurant chain that wanted to roll out the platform across 10 locations. And I started sleeping again. The app wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I was just doing the work. On New Year's Eve, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Brielle," she said quietly, "I've been thinking about what you said at Thanksgiving." "Okay." "And I realize I didn't handle things well. I should have supported you. I should have believed in you." I waited. "I'm sorry," she said. "Your father is too. We were wrong." I sat down. "Thank you. So, can we start over?" I thought about that question for a long time. Could we start over? Could I forgive them for the years of dismissal, the comparisons, the mockery? Maybe. Eventually. But not yet. I appreciate the apology, Mom, but I'm not ready to go back to the way things were. If we're going to have a relationship, it has to be different. You don't get to control me, you don't get to take credit, and you don't get access to my business or my finances. She was quiet. That's fair. "And one more thing," I said. "I don't need you to be proud of me. I'm proud of myself, and that's enough." She hung up. I don't know if she was angry or hurt or both, but for the first time, I didn't care. Because here's what I learned. I didn't build this business to prove I was worthy. I built it to stop living like I wasn't. I didn't need my family to believe in me. I just needed to believe in myself. And that's the hardest lesson of all. If you made it to the end, you're real. Hit like and subscribe for more family revenge stories. And comment your verdict. Should Brielle forgive them now that she hit $1 million revenue, or keep them at a distance forever?